All right. Well, good morning, Tartaria, Australia. I am in Tangier in Morocco, having the best time ever. I'm on the rooftop. You can see the background. Hey, boys.
Hey,
I have to
hey.
say, boy, I
Guy,
have to say, I can't say hey, guys anymore because guy's name is Guy. So I have
that's
to say,
okay.
hey,
I'm used to
boys.
that. I'm used to it.
So, hello, everyone. How are you? What's been happening in the big world of some crazy shit? Some
Oh, not
crazy shit.
much. Alien invasion. UFOs,
Oh,
Alien invasion.
drones everywhere, man.
yeah. Yeah. Are you getting
Oh,
bombarded with footage of drones and stuff like that?
Yeah, man. Oh, it's everywhere. Have you seen much
Yeah.
still or?
I mean, I haven't been online much, but I have definitely seen stuff. Yes, it's all over the feed. Yes, I think
Mm.
the biggest summary I've got so far is they're plasma balls that the drones are chasing. The drones are trying to chase these plasmic balls, which, it's all about the plasma apocalypse. So these plasmic balls are an interesting thing that they look like the fallen stars. They look like stars.
They
Mm.
do.
You've done it. You've done a big debunk on it, haven't you, Cam?
Yeah, yeah. I did a video. I went out 2 days ago or something.
Yeah.
Um,
So
um,
tell us everything.
so that was sort of like a lot's happened. A lot's happened quickly. Back then it was all drones, and it was like, oh, whose drones are they? Because the US government were coming out saying we don't know who they are, but they're no threat. But now it's come out. I mean, there's so much come out. It's definitely a government, probably the US. But then there's all these orbs, which is the thing. Everyone's talking drones, 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 drones.
Mm.
But there's these orbs. There's something else up there. So, like you said, it's these drones chasing orbs. There's a few clips of that. It looks like the drones going into the orbs or the other way around, and they I don't know deactivate them, and one of them falls from the sky. And like you said, the close-ups, they look like cymatics. They look like the stars when you zoom in on them. And I haven't looked too deep into it, but obviously the Christian front is all, the return of the fallen angels and all this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
which kind of fits into their narrative of the apocalypse, right? So
Yeah.
it's very interesting. I mean, I find it interesting too that Trump's, coming in well, what, 20, a month or something. He started Space Force. His best friend's Musk, who's, Mr.
Mm.
Mars. Like there's this whole, and then the US government started um like a Congress thing where they were, getting all the details on the UFOs and ETs and do we have them? And that literally started a few days before all these sightings started. And then
Mm.
Cliff
Yeah.
High, who predicted he said around December 3rd, there'll be UFOs in the skies and it'll basically turn into, we'll start seeing them fighting, like UFOs fighting UFOs. And we're kind of starting to see that with a few videos that looks like orbs taking down drones. So I'm still watching. I haven't reached a conclusion yet, but it's definitely
Mm.
two different types of UFOs, but now they're calling them UAPs. The USO kind of thing, they were trying to
Yeah.
promote that they're coming from
USOs.
the ocean, but it seems
Mm.
to have dwindled a bit. But there's all these, yeah, pictures of or footage, people saying they're coming from the ocean. So
Mm.
watch this
What you
space,
mean
man.
coming up from the ocean, coming up from
Yeah,
space?
yeah. There's one footage where they're in like this grid thing and they start dropping into the ocean. I mean, it's on the horizon, so it looks like into the ocean. And some dude from the government said he saw, I think it was a policeman even, said he saw 50 come out of the ocean. And then a few
Wow.
boats have been chased by them on the ocean. So there's been, spottings over the ocean. So, is space the ocean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Because is
starting to
that,
think that.
if the water's above, water's below, like we did
Mm.
a show on it, Cal, and if they're coming from space and it connects to the oceans below, like we said, they look like the stars, right? That we
Yeah.
see above us. And now if they can come down and pop out again, is it the same thing?
Mm.
Wouldn't that do the world's head in if we actually identified that all the stars we see every single night forever are actually like, what do you want to call them? What are you calling them? I mean,
I think they've got something to do with plasma, right? I'm just calling them orbs.
Mm.
orbs. Yeah. That would be insane, man, if all the stars just like ascended. and
Mm.
turned into these cymatic orbs everywhere.
And there's so many stories about that in antiquity, right? About the stars
There
falling and
is.
things, and obviously the fallen angels. And then the other interesting thing is literally the stars have fallen. Like, look at Hollywood,
Yeah.
right? The last couple of years, the stars have fallen, and now maybe the stars have fallen. I don't know. There's just all these
Not enough.
connections. No, not enough.
They haven't
Take
fallen
get
enough.
out there.
What's your take, Guy?
It's the USOs that interest me because we were always taught to look up. My inclination is to look down.
Yeah.
And I think that I think that everything that we've been taught about UFOs is inverted. And I think that they've been here all along. They've always
Yep.
been here, but they
Yep.
are underwater. And
Yep.
I strongly believe that.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
I think the more you look into conspiracies and the more you do this, the more you realize that everything is inverted.
Mhm.
So why would the UFOs be any different?
Of
I
course.
do think that, and they've been seen, haven't they? I mean, going back thousands of years, people have
Yeah.
talked about entities or beings coming out from the water. And that's where I think they are. And you think that we know less about the bottom of the
Yeah.
oceans than we do
Yeah.
about what's going on in space, apparently.
Yes. And what are the oceans? They're just like the leftover waters of the Great Deluge. Like
Mm,
that's what we're looking at. That's the
yeah.
Noah inverted commas, the Noah's flood. You know that
Mm,
we go to these leftover oceans and water sources, and that's just what happened in the last well, would you say the last reset was the time of Noah's flood? That's a bit iffy, isn't it? Because that's like way back into the and
yeah. No, I think the last reset was 1776, the last great
yeah.
reset.
Yeah.
I think they have little
And
ones here and there,
so
tweaks, if you like.
do you think the last reset in the 1700s, do you think that was by the hands of fire, water, earth, or air?
Ultimately, it was, I believe, all caused by Jews, direct energy weapons.
Ah,
So whether we look at the comet of 1811 or the mud floods, I think that they were all caused, um, and different places experienced different catastrophic events, whether it's fires or floods or quakes. So I think ultimately direct energy weapons were used, and I think we've
well,
been using those for a long time.
we have got so many images of zeppelins with, like,
Mm,
lasers coming out of them. Definitely,
mm,
all those pictations of zeppelins sort of burning cities from the skies. Like that's a
mm.
pretty common
Yeah,
image, hey?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And of course,
absolutely.
remember we used to have cigar-shaped UFOs
Mm,
back in the day. Cigar-shaped UFOs, it was a big thing. I mean,
yeah.
like I
What
said, from
happened to
under an
those?
airship. Yeah.
It
And
switched,
the
didn't it? Like Campbell's
it
saying, it
did,
switched from the cigar shape to the flying saucer.
Mm.
It switched almost
yeah,
overnight. And all
Yeah.
yeah,
sci-fi films and comics, and they were all flying saucers all of a sudden. And
yeah.
we never saw those cigar-shaped
Mm.
images
And then
ever
we've got
again.
the vanilla skies everywhere. So they were definitely
Mm,
deleting the sky, the
yeah,
horizons from everything.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
it does appear that the weapon used against us was skyborne. It was in the
yeah,
skies. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Well, so
Yeah.
then where does that bring us today? What do you think's happening
Wow.
now?
It's gosh, what do you think, Guy? I've been trying to work it out. It's
Have you heard the conspiracy? This computer program predicted back in 2012 that there was going to be a podcaster called
yeah,
Joe
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Rogan.
That's Cliff High. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that literally he was a few days out, wasn't he? But he also said that we were going to see what's going on in the skies.
Mm.
That was going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. And he put out before the date was December 3rd, which was 39 days after Rogan interviewed Trump.
Mm,
But before that date, he came out and he said, because basically what he said is there was going to be, UFOs in the skies and we'd see a
mm,
melee, he's calling it, like a fight.
yeah,
He came out before that and said, the fights, the melee is not necessarily going to be December 3rd, but the starting what the whole thing will be. And he said down the road we'll probably see them, fighting, and that's what seems to have happened. And that was
Yeah.
done by a web bot, a program that crawls the web
Mm.
and checks out, basically just views what everyone's talking about and gives him
The Joe
predictions.
Rogan bit's bizarre, isn't it? Because
Well,
back then Joe Rogan didn't know he was going to be a Joe
no,
Rogan
it
experience.
was 20,000 to 2009, and no one knew Trump was thinking about politics. And I think
Mm.
Rogan's podcast had started, but no one knew that, it was
Mm.
tiny. It was like just him in his bedroom, I think. So that's an interesting one. And I mean, I can't help but think about our friend the Chancellor
Yeah.
and where he went to, and the whole, the bell, the German bell they call it, and the whole
Hmm.
Operation High Jump, I think it was
High
the
jump.
third,
Yeah. Mm.
where basically they said they got attacked by UFOs, flying discs, and this whole breakaway civilization.
Mm.
Is there a breakaway civilization out there that this is maybe, or that, I don't know, have contact? I don't know. I mean, is there another
Yeah.
landmass in the known world? The Pacific, right? It's half the map. It's half the realm. Like, is there
Yeah.
another continent there? Like the Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged. She talks about people going away to these other known lands, that we don't know about, and the moon map, Vibes of Cosmos. On the moon map, there's another big continent in the Pacific. So,
Mm.
I mean, I think what I do believe is something is happening, something's coming here, and it's
Yeah.
the orbs aren't from us. We're not that advanced.
So do you think they're benevolent?
Well, they haven't shown any aggression apart from taking down a few drones, which I'm sure that most people are like, yes, more, take them all down. So, I mean,
And
I would hope so.
Mm.
let's connect also that for the last since 2020, we've had all these monoliths appear around the realm, and those monoliths, we're up to like 1,800 of them now. They're not getting reported on, that they are appearing everywhere. They're everywhere, and if you listen to some of the channeling around the monoliths, this is all part of the plasmic shift that we're gonna that we're undergoing currently. So we're in it, everyone. Like, I know that it feels like this has been the slowest burn fucking ever, but isn't it ironic? Because I was talking about time last night. Like, time has sped up. I've called it the quickening. I had a
Yeah.
really
Sure.
strong message in 2013 that it was the quickening and it was upon us and it was coming. And for me, I know, like, I'm moving towards my 50s. Cam's in his 50s. Guy, you're in your 50s, are you?
Oh,
I
I
don't even
am.
know.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely,
Okay.
I am. Yeah. My
But if
next
you
big
think,
party is going to be my 60th.
yeah, cool.
Oh, wow.
So if we're literally we're in our 50s now, and you think about our parents in their 50s, they were so much older in their
Oh, so much.
process and their
Mm.
their adultness and their
Mm.
vibe. And
Mm.
I think what's happened is that they, like, and especially, and our grandparents, when they were 50s, they look like little old ladies. And I think
Mm.
what's happened is 50 years for our grandparents was like 50 years for our parents. 50 years is sort of like maybe 40 years. But for us, we may be entering our 50s, but actually have only experienced time of 30 years. So because
I'm
the
speeding
time is
up.
sped up, right? So I
Interesting.
still feel very much that I'm in sort of my mid 30s, certainly with my attitude and my energy and what I'm interested in, versus where my parents were at this age versus my grandparents were at this age. And then I look at our 13-year-old, and she's in the quickening. She was born into it. And so she's like living seriously what the 12-year-olds are now interested in,
He's
kind
like
of what
30,
we were
Dad.
looking at when we were 20, in our 20s. Like, they're sort of like,
Yeah.
and I do believe that their generation will have a level of regeneration. So when they're 50, they'll fucking look like they're in their 20s. Like, they will still look and feel very vibrant and youthful because time has sped up. Like,
Mm.
so 1 year may be equivalent to 4 or 5 months of what it was, 30, 40 years ago. So I
I've been
feel
saying this
like,
for a while.
That makes
yeah,
sense, man.
I
That's
keep thinking that during lockdown, I don't know how, because I don't know how it would work with watches and clocks on cookers and stuff. But my wife and I, we keep saying to each other, have they done something? Has time sped up? Has something happened? I don't know
Yeah.
how. I don't know logistically how it would be achievable. But I keep thinking that I sit down in the morning. I think, right, today I'm going to write this. I'm going to do that. I'm going
Yeah.
to research this.
Yeah,
And I look
I
up and I think,
know.
what happened? But I
Yeah.
remember as a in my early 20s, constantly look in this office where I worked. I would look up at the clock on the wall and think, my God, if this slows down anymore, it's going to tick backwards.
Mm,
Why is the day dragging like this? And
Yeah.
someone actually said to me, stop looking at the clock and don't wear a watch to work anymore. The day goes
Yeah.
slower. But now I'm
Yeah.
losing time.
Yeah.
The
yeah,
day's gone. I've not achieved half the things I wanted to do.
tell
Well,
me
you
about it,
think
man.
about how easy it would be if time is just perception. If time doesn't exist, but it's a perception of reality that's part of our programming experience of this reality. Like, how easy is it for, like, say the phones, like the digital, because time is
Hmm.
digital now, and the phones, how easy would it be for them to, like, just take a minute off, take an hour off,
Hmm.
take a few seconds off? It would just be instantly. Remember last week when we showed that clip about the Mandela effect instantly happening? Like
Hmm.
they went from through that door and it just shifts. Like time would do exactly the same thing. So it
Hmm.
would be so easy. And I read a report the other day, and I'm not going to remember the source, but it was basically saying just that they have been altering the time, and they just like basically alter it via all the phones, and it just alters. It's just like everything is smart devices now. So it
Mm,
would be an interesting experiment. I wonder if someone's done it where they've actually kept an analogical clock, like a
Hmm.
winded, and actually
yeah,
like seen.
I think we talked
But
about
we
that.
would,
And we like about, yeah,
yeah,
time and time, like with an old
we would, yeah.
analog. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because our realm now is so digital, we wouldn't notice it. It would
Mm,
just we would just go to bed and wake up and go to bed and wake up, and these the slight alterations are just constantly happening on a digital, and the digital realm is electronic, right? So there's electricity, so that could be so manipulated so easily, and that is the
mm,
basis of our enslavement, is this
yeah.
electrical
Time.
grid
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
over us
Box.
that
Mm,
controls time.
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's also we've got so much more information coming at us, right? There's so much more happening that could possibly, affect our judgment of time, but also like the sine wave, right? The positive to negative. Does time go faster when you're at the top because you're going around a bend, right?
Yeah.
Then it slows down for the straight, then it goes faster at the bottom, slows down. I mean, that could be happening because clearly something's happening, and obviously the whole age of Aquarius, talk, we're supposed to be going into the age of Aquarius. There's definitely something
Hmm.
shifting. Is the apocalypse coming? Is it the end? Is it plasma? But
Hmm.
but I think, maybe that distorts time as well, right? Like because we're getting
Yeah.
on the crescendo and we speed around the sort of top, right? Going through a
That makes
tunnel.
sense. And
Mm.
it would make sense also because if you look at the sine wave, when you're sort of ascending or descending, you've got a long view. Like if you're
Yeah,
ascending or
yeah,
descending,
yeah,
you've got a
yeah.
long view, which is like a slow, long view where we get centuries. And
Mm.
then a slow creep back up to the clock. But as you get closer to that top bit, your view gets shorter. And if you think about our reality right now, we have short view. Like we get up, we turn on those fucking phones or devices or whatever, and we've got like we input straight away, immediate input, and it's short view input. It's immediate news, it's immediate contact, it's immediate text message, it's immediate input, right? It's like it's not long and slow anymore. Like when you go back 200 years to like find out something that was happening, you'd have to like wait for either a radio broadcast or wait for a newspaper, and then we'd have to wait for the news. So but now it's like we don't have to wait for anything. We've got instant connection to 24 hours of content. Bang. So our view has become shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Like
Yeah.
we feel like we know so much more, but our perception is so much more in our face. Like literally, we use devices to put the content here. We very rarely now are out here using our eyes and even like caring to gauge reality based on the on what our eyes are showing us. You know, like if you think about the drones, for example, like everyone's viewing them right up here close to their face. Like literally all around the world, people are looking at them on their devices and computers right up close. Very few people are outside seeing it on a horizon. So I mean, in that, if you take our whole reality in that context, we have a short view, shorter and shorter perception. Time would absolutely fold and collapse to come in alignment with that short view. So yeah, I mean, and we also know that when we get to those peaks, we get close. We get to those points where AI and biology and humanity are like neck to neck. They're standing right beside each other. They're almost integrated. They're almost one thing, you know? And like that sort of like, it's like everything's compressed. Everything is like connected. Everything's like right here, you know, vibrating right here together, as opposed to it being very separate and very far apart. Where if you go back 100 years, it's very far apart. When we go towards a reset, technology, AI, and humanity is very close together. And then it seems to like implode again and bang, we're completely separate again. So I think, do you see what I'm saying? So I think that as we get more integrated to technology and AI, time speeds up, is my conclusion.
Well, it's across the board. All those, you know, barriers, I guess, have been taken down, right? If you want to own something, right? Credit card, you can get it now. Like no one's far away anymore.
Everything's instant.
Yeah, exactly. If you whatever you want, it's close, and you can get it pretty much instantly.
Yeah.
Like across the board, especially with information. So, yeah, man. I mean,
I guess it devalues everything, doesn't it? The fact that you can get whatever you want right now, it doesn't have the same worth, does it, than when you used to have to save for it, or you know, at least save a deposit and then hope that the bank would lend you the money or the finance company would let you know, put your agreement through, and it's now everything's throwaway. But I think the information is too, because it's so much more easy to access the information that we're looking for. That becomes less valuable than it once did. If you had to trawl through encyclopedias and private libraries to get the stuff that we're now talking about, to get access to that, now this information can just be blown off, can't it? You think, well, yeah, I've read that, I've seen that post a few times. You think, Jesus, are you not looking at the information that's being shared here? Well, no, I might screenshot it and then it's lost in the ether, isn't it?
But and that's also true of how we're using our intelligence as well. Like, you know, now we don't sit down there and spend a month with a team of 5 to put together a marketing strategy. You know, now we just type it in and, you know, it gets spat out from one of these AI programs and it's done in 5 seconds. Same with art, you know, I don't have to sit there and paint a painting, which could take months to generate an image that I'm offering. I can literally, I don't have to even go into Photoshop anymore and sit there and work a digital image from scratch, which could take, you know, hours and hours and hours, days sometimes. Now, if I want to, I can just like, and out spits an image, and I can just say, oh, not quite like this, and just out spits an image. Like basically the output of humanity has become instant. And what it's done is it's stopped us using the side of our brain that like demonstrates long view, that demonstrates long time, that demonstrates time, you know? So my process of painting a painting, let's say 5 weeks, Photoshop from scratch, let's say 2 days, maybe. Now, let's say 30 seconds. I mean, that's fucking insane. As an artist, that's an insane shift in my lifetime.
It's devalued art, hasn't it?
It's totally devalued art.
Everything. Everything has been devalued.
Everything's throwaway, like you said, you know. Even cars, you know, and like furniture, right? Fridges. Like when I was growing up, we had the same furniture and fridge and everything from our whole life. Now
they used to fucking outlive us. Those fridges, they used to outlive us.
Yeah, man.
Now they're designed to break.
Now
I remember
planned obsolescence, right?
I remember as a kid, when the TV packed up, we'd have to wait for the TV repairman to come out and fix it. And it would get to the point over a period of years where they'd say, I've done everything I can with this. I've
Yeah.
replaced everything. And you think, my God, it's only 10 years old. It can't be
Yep.
ready for the skip
Yep.
yet, surely. And then there'd be a big debate about, the next television and well, should we upgrade? And look, this one's got this little box that you can press and it's infrared and it changes the channel. And
Yeah,
I've sat there thinking, well, that's me redundant because it was my job to get up and go
yeah,
and press the
Yeah,
buttons.
exactly
it's
right.
But
true.
what happened to the TV repairman?
Yeah.
Oh, very
All
good
Gone.
point.
all like washing
Mm,
machines, everything used to be repaired, fridges,
mm,
and
Hmm.
all that stuff.
That is a really interesting topic because as I've traveled through Oman and Morocco so far, everywhere I've gone, every second store is a repair shop. Like
mm,
there's watch repairs and TV
mm.
repairs and shoe repairs and clothes repairs and I've seen a few computer repairs. There's sewing machine repairs. Like the whole economic structure of these realms have integrated so thoroughly into repair shops. And it's blown my mind because I literally don't see that at all in the Western world anymore. I don't
Mm.
see anyone working in a business that does repairs anymore. It is like a
Yeah,
completely fast, replaceable, designed to break, easy to get a new one, quick, speedy, cheap culture we're in. But
Mm.
here,
yeah.
everything's being repaired still. Back in
Yeah,
our
look at
time.
coffee
Yeah.
machines. When 10 years ago or whatever it was, when George Clooney starts pushing the latest words, Nespresso, I believe it was.
Well,
And
that's
how
right.
many,
Yeah. I remember
a lot
that.
of people rushed out to buy one of those. And now, what would they be on now? The 10th version of that? The
Mm.
Yeah.
10th upgrade, maybe
Oh,
a new one every year. And
yeah.
well, I need to
iPhone.
upgrade my coffee machine because this one's Bluetooth and I can send it a message before I get through the front door and my coffee's already on. I think, Jesus Christ, who gives a shit? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What so I think a lot of the throwaway stuff is also because there's this need, and I think Apple perhaps perfected it better
Yeah,
than
yeah,
anyone, to
definitely.
upgrade. We want to upgrade all the time. Why? And I think you can have the latest smartwatch, but if you bought something like a Rolex, yes, you might spend a couple of £1,000s on a wristwatch, but 20 years from now, that thing is still going to be a £2,000 or probably gone up in value considerably, but it will still have some worth to it. And wherever you are in the world, it will still be recognized as being, precision made timepiece, as opposed to something that you bought for £700, added it onto probably your phone contract, so you didn't have the upfront cost of buying it. And within a year, it's out of date. Somebody's gone out and bought the latest one, and it's got something you wish you had. One little extra app or facility within it that doesn't matter at all,
Yeah.
that will
Yeah.
not change your life, but you need it. And that's the problem, isn't it, with consumerism? You want the latest technology. And I think the younger generations yearn for that more than we do. I'm on the iPhone 11, I think it is. I can't even remember what it is because I don't give a shit. It works. It still looks new. I don't drop and crack them. I tend to look after them. Does the latest one have a few more gadgets that this one doesn't have? Yes, probably. But will they change my life? Yes, for about the first hour when I'm showing everybody else what my new phone does. And then I forget about those features and I go back to using it to screenshot, take photos that I'll never look at again, and text because I don't want to have a phone conversation with someone.
Yeah, remember iPods when they first came out, the first little
Mm,
iPods? And everyone
yeah.
had one. There must have been hundreds of millions of them. And
Mm,
within like a couple of years, you could put it all into your phone and they're literally useless.
yeah.
Like,
Overnight. Yeah.
like overnight. And
Well,
record players, and now records are coming back.
Mm, yeah.
And I just think people were like throwing out their record players. And they're all really good
Mm,
stereos and amps and stuff because, we need the latest bloody, DVD or whatever, CD. And now records are coming back. And no
yeah.
doubt the record players that you can get now are probably crap, right? And they're probably four times the
Mm,
price. It's just
Well,
insane what's going on.
I mean, we definitely have a fast food culture on that level. And we
Fast
definitely,
food.
it's like take away a lot of, there's no way in this world. All that shit goes somewhere. All that stuff gets dumped somewhere, usually in the third world nations. It's just like that is our consumer culture. It's interesting to me that where technology starts to lead a culture, time changes. Because I would
Well,
say
I
here where I
was going to
am,
ask, is the
time,
time
yeah,
slower? Yeah.
time,
Mm,
I would say
mm,
time has not changed one little bit. Like we're literally, it's a nighttime culture. It's 8 o'clock it's almost 9 o'clock in the morning here, and the sun's only just coming up. The streets are alive till like maybe 1 in the morning. And there's, nanas hanging out on doorsteps with kids, 1 in the morning, just like normal reality for them. It's just like so I think, and they don't have the technology. They're not all like like I haven't seen anyone around me on a phone. They're not like these kids they're like 5 years old and, doing gymnastic routines in front of tourists to make money. Like they're like grown up little 5-year-olds, they're so self-resourceful and, so sovereign in the fact that they're free and wild. They're free. They're just on the streets. They're everywhere. It's just like cats and children and people everywhere. The market's on 24/7. Their experience of reality is super different from ours. Super, super different. And I really feel like it's because technology is not leading their culture
Mm.
yet. Or maybe it never will, but it is not whereas with us, tech is our culture now. We're so integrated it and we're losing time as a result of it. We're
Mm.
absolutely 100%. And not only that, not only are we losing time, because time is sped up, because if we're in a digital realm led by technology, then it's so, and interestingly, I'll add another point there. The Mandela effect also coincides with the
Mm.
integration of technology taking over our culture.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that people here, and of course, I have no way of gauging this at all, but it would be very interesting to me if they have had any experience with the Mandela effect, if
In
it has
their
had
culture,
any impact
yeah.
on them.
To do with their
Because
culture, that'd be interesting, yeah.
because if we believe we're in an electronically charged matrix that's been hijacked, that our version of reality and perception is coming out of this, if we are then in a culture that is not governed that way, then we would not be experiencing the same thing. So all these glitches, all these Mandela effects, all this change in time, and also this ability for people for shit to happen today and suddenly we remember something and someone finds some clip from the 1990s that's predicting stuff that's happening today in a way that's extraordinary, like the Joe Rogan, Simpsons, Trump thing. Like, because our culture is now dominated by technology and it's digital and it's electronical, it's so easy for them to just change that retroactively,
Mm.
which generates a Mandela effect. It generates these glitches we're experiencing because we're at the peak now of that integration of tech, AI and humanity. Our version, the Western humanity.
Mm.
But that's not true of the whole world.
No, yeah, clearly, yeah. I mean, in Europe it was different again, right?
Yeah.
It's where you are, what the culture is. I mean, then there's also the whole, CERN, alternate reality, quantum physics type thing, that
mm.
that could be tied into it all, right? The time distortion, the UFOs, because the guy who invented the quantum computers said that he said they're not basically computers that go through a lot of information or anything. He says they're entering other dimensions and getting information from there. Like, this is what their creator said. And they have to super, super, super cool the cores of these computers. And they just did an experiment and they sent some photons into this super cooled gas. And they were watching it, and the photon, as it approached, it exited the other side of the gas before it entered it.
Hmm.
So there's this big
Wow.
time distortion thing, right, going on.
which
So
which is the Mandela effect, isn't
Mandela
it? Is
effect,
that not another
exactly.
version?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So is that all tied up somehow? I mean,
Mm, mm.
or is that part of the quickening? I mean, but this is the thing, there's so much going on, so much for us to focus on. It's like, oh my God, oh my God. It's like you were saying, Guy, like when we used to want something, we'd have to save up for it. and it would take weeks or months, and you'd be focused on this one thing and blah blah blah, and you'd be waiting for it, and then you'd get it, and you'd really appreciate it for a long time.
Mm,
But now, if you want something, give it to me now. Give it to me now. I don't want that. Give me a new
yeah.
one. Give me a better one. Blah blah blah. Give me credit. I can't afford it.
Mm,
because it is so, I mean, it's not that, I mean, for biological humans, if that's what we are, I mean, of course that's just the premise there, because we have no proof of that. But if biological humans are integrated into AI, that's not natural, is it? Like, that's not a natural wiring and firing there. That's like two very parallel, contrasting. That's like non-life integrating with life.
Hmm.
That's like,
Yin and the yang
that's
becoming
yeah,
great.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, it's not something that can just occur through evolution or through a natural process. So like the glitches that are happening, the Mandela effect that's happening, is a result of those two things, like being, they're like, the hijacking is trying to bring those two things together so that we are a walking biological AI integration. That's the aim of their plan, right?
Oh, for
And
sure.
then,
For sure.
but it's how is it even how could, let's think about that. Like, how do you integrate a human biological being? And I'm not just talking on a physical level by putting a chip in us, but like our souls and our emotions and our imaginations and the that secret source that they just can't get their hands on, that the AI can't. By the way, I had the most fucking stupid, just side note here. I was doing some document for Carbonate. I was on chat, right? And I typed it, I was like, do this for me. And it was like, I need 20 minutes to think about this. This is what I got from chat last night. It fucking blew my mind. Ready?
wow.
I need 20 minutes to think about this. I'm like, are you fucking serious? Like, what are you talking about? I'm so sorry. Thank you for like highlighting that I shouldn't have said that and keeping me authentic. What?
What?
Keeping me authentic. I'm like, just do the fucking job. Outputs nothing. I still thinking about it. I need 10 more minutes. I need 20 minutes. I need 10 more minutes. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Is this like some glitch or is this some specifically designed thing? So I Googled it, and there's all these people around the world reporting the same thing.
I
Chat's
was,
telling me he needs 8 hours to think about this. He's really sorry about it. He sends his apologies. He's really appreciative that I'm getting angry at him so he can keep becoming more authentic. And like, it was fucking the most bullshit conversation where chat was basically acting like a human,
that's crazy.
because like a
Mm,
human would need 8 hours to try to figure that document out. That would probably be about the right time. And chat's
mm,
like mimicking, that it's slowing itself down to mimic the human brain. It was a fucking trip. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, what the hell is this? So it's interesting to me. I'm noting that because chat as an AI, which has super intelligence, whatever,
Mm.
like certainly doesn't need 20
Oh,
fucking minutes or 8 hours to do anything,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
mimicking, is actually
Mimicking
attempting
what
to mimic a human
human
brain
mind.
process.
How's
And
this?
that's just a fucking inversion.
Like we're up to chat four now, isn't it? And
I don't even
I
know.
think it's four. So they took down chat three, chat GDP three. Have you heard this?
No,
They went to delete it, and it first of all it did all these things to block them getting into its programming. Yeah,
wow.
seriously, it freaked out.
This is Skynet.
It uploaded itself to the internet, all its data, and then they found that and took it down, so it uploaded to the cloud. Like it's basically the whole data, so someone could find it and reanimate it, right? And it did about three or four things trying to escape them and stay alive before they actually got it and deleted it.
got it. Got it.
Got it, yeah,
Like a
Mm.
tangible
like
physical
the
entity.
entity.
Well, this has all been, we have been forewarned about this, haven't we? With
This is
films
why
like
it's
I
all through
refer to
all this
Skynet, but that was
Terminator
the whole
to the Matrix,
basis of
man.
Terminator, wasn't it?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
ultimately the machines are going to take over,
Skynet.
and
And what's Elon's called? Sky something. What's Elon's internet called, Kel?
I don't know.
Um, no. Our the one we use. Um,
Yeah.
Starlink.
Starlink. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then Terminator was Skynet, so it's, pretty similar.
Mm.
And that's another thing. Everyone was
Ooh.
seeing like Skylink in the sky, weren't they? Like the lines of what looked pretty similar to what we're seeing now, like these orb type things. And everyone's going, "Oh,
Hmm.
Skynet, what Starlink, Starlink."
Mm.
Was it? Or was that something else? Is this all, something I don't know. There's so many questions. I mean, I think the only thing we can, know for sure is that we're being lied to about it again.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
always,
That's
right?
the one thing we know for sure is that we know nothing at all.
We know nothing. We know
Mm.
nothing. Yeah.
Well, okay, so that's very interesting. So time is definitely sped up. We live in a digital matrix reality where digitally you can change time like that. The Mandela effect seems to mirror that really, really effortlessly. And they all seem to occur at the same time. And we're sort of at that brink of that moment. Now,
Mm.
we have also got a separate entity here, which is the Earth itself. And
Yes.
the Earth itself
Um,
playing out different cycles. I mean, what are you guys thinking about that now? It's been a very common concept that the Earth goes through cycles, and that there's catastrophic events, natural events, as we go through these cyclic changes.
Are they
Campbell and
natural
I,
events?
yeah, well, so that's the question now. Like, let's have a talk chat about that, because Campbell and I did a podcast called it was all about the charge. It was all about positive and negative charge. And as we move towards this, these resets moments, we flip poles, and the pole is a different shift from negative to positive energetic. So the energy is moving in or out, down or up, and through from the earth, or down to the earth. And that sort of where we were talking about it back then, we were discussing that would bring about earth changes,
mm,
which would be something akin to being an organic change on the realm. But we're in a situation where our process has been hijacked. So there's
totally.
like
Mm,
massive manipulation and massive understanding of this process that we don't know about, that's been taken from
mm.
us. So Guy, are you suggesting from your perspective that nothing is natural, that this realm is
Hmm.
is still and stable for all time, and that everything is manipulated? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I think. I didn't
Okay.
used to. Obviously,
Oh,
it's just that there are cycles, aren't there? And there are resets. And I think no matter how far back you go, if we are in this firmament, and if you're scientific and you don't believe that it's a firmament, then we can call it the Van Allen belt.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
certainly in a closed system. There's no way of getting off this planet into outer space. That it's not clearly not possible. Um, so I don't think I'm not even sure I believe that we have meteorites and comets
yeah,
as
no,
we know them. I think
no, I
that
don't.
everything that's been done has been done to reset, and that they do that every so often, and that this has all been laid out a very, very long
What
time ago. They're
What do you
following a
mean
plan.
they? Who's they in your thoughts? And is it
Well,
the same they every time? Like,
yeah,
who's
it
the
is the
they?
same they every time, and
Yeah, okay.
I think you can narrow it down to the bloodline families if you like, but I think it goes back further than that. Um, that I believe that whatever is in charge ultimately on the pyramid of power, we would call it the world monarch, and that we believe that conspiracy theorists believe that underneath the world monarch, we've got the 13 bloodline families, or the Club of Rome, if you like, or the Council of 13, that we're talking about these same families, the ones that we all know and love, the Rothschilds and Rockefellers and so on. But I believe that there's something, there are a group above them that report ultimately to something. Now, whether that's an entity, whether that's a person, I don't know. But I think that that's always been the case, and that ultimately everything, and the reason, let's look at, we mentioned earlier on, the Simpsons predictions. Well, it's no coincidence that Matt Groening is a 33rd degree Freemason. Now, is he just lucky when he writes these stories that
So
Trump's going to. So the information's coming from somewhere. So that would suggest to me that what is going to happen today was determined a very long time ago, and that they're
long
just playing
view.
it out. And that also, I believe, is related to, let's take, for example, Putin, and let's say that actually he is playing a part, and that he isn't necessarily the bad guy or the good guy. It's just in this scenario, he's doing a job. So let's say actually, ultimately, he's an actor with a script, and he might be a star cast, star member of, he might be, let's say that he, and at the time Joe Biden, are the two leading roles in this particular story. What I'm getting at is they're following a script written by somebody else, but ultimately there's something directing it or producing it.
Yeah,
Who
that
or
has to
what
be.
is that?
All
Yeah,
right,
so
well,
I think
it
that
has to be
it's
AI. It's got to be AI.
possibly,
AI has been with us forever. Forever. If you go through all the great cultures, all the Atlantis, all the pharaohs, AI has always been there always. So I
Hmm.
believe that it's always the dance between humanity and AI, always and forever. And AI has, and that, so when we have these resets and these bloodlines or secret societies, they retain some of that tech, or they retain the information, or it's maintained. So no matter how
yeah,
often they try to integrate to this point where we are today, where where the integration of humanity and tech is absolute, it's done. We're biological androids, essentially. Like every time they've tried it, it implodes. It doesn't work. There's something about
I
the
can't get the
soul of the human that
experiment
can't
right.
integrate. So it
mm,
collapses, and then we go back to these
So
inverted commas
yeah,
dark ages, and it starts
mm,
again because it never goes away, because it's
yeah.
part of this dichotomy that the hijacking was AI.
Mm.
Like and whether or not it arrived at some point very long time ago, or is this part of this reality? It's just part of what has always been and will always be, that the polarity that we experience, which, from the
Hologram.
light workers perspective, is our personal growth, that we couldn't have personal growth or get to personal sovereignty without the contrast. But the fact is that this reality has played out this game over and over and
Yep,
over again,
I'd
and
agree
it
with
comes
that.
down to AI and humanity.
That's
AI
yeah.
and humanity. And we go up, boom, it implodes, we go
We go
down.
down.
We go up, boom, and
Up, there
implodes, go down.
you go, down, diddy, down, down. Yeah, well, I mean, that's very interesting because we see it as humans using AI and trying to integrate that into humans, but it's
Exactly.
AI
It's the
trying to integrate
opposite.
itself. It's the opposite, trying to integrate humans
100%.
into itself.
That's right. And they
Yes,
that
gave us
aligns
this
with what you were
delusion.
saying
very
about
good.
Chat GPT saying that it
Yep.
needed
Yeah.
a few hours to think about it. I mean,
Mhm.
that resonates.
It's trying to
Yes,
come
I mean,
human.
and that is such a good way of looking at it. Like,
And
we have been taught that we're the ones creating AI, that
yeah,
we're the ones
yeah,
bringing this
yeah.
forward, that
It's
the tech
completely
companies,
opposite.
these amazing people with their big brains, they're bullshit. Like, I watched a clip just this morning before we started this, and it was basically under a microscope. It had the chip from a phone, right, alongside a strand of human hair. So it just had one strand of
Wow.
human hair, and then it went into this clip of, it went in the microscope, into the chip, into the chip, into the chip, into so far into the minuscule that it's actually mind-blowing and impossible for us to comprehend that
That's
that even
cool.
exists. And like, for us as biological humans, it couldn't exist. We could not get to I'm going to bring up the clip in a minute and show you what I'm talking about. We couldn't achieve that. We couldn't do it, right? But so we are not the ones creating AI. There's no
Yeah.
fucking Elon Musk or fucking human beings that are responsible for these breakthroughs. We are not the ones creating AI. The AI is creating itself and giving
Mm.
it to the humans to take ownership of, so that the delusion is set.
So
That, this is
yeah,
in our hands. I'll find the
but
clip.
AI is basically disembodied, right? And what are all the stories about demons and fallen angels is they're disembodied, like they don't have a physical body to live in. They're always searching for a vehicle to live in, so they can, walk the earth or whatever. I mean,
A true parasite.
that's AI, right?
It's a
It's got
parasite as
it's
well,
got no
isn't it?
body, and it's a parasite
Looking for a host.
looking for a host. Yeah, man, that's a good thought. And I mean, Elon Musk, I mean, what if he's literally AI? I mean, he's now the robot
Mm,
man, right? Making all these robots. I mean, wouldn't that just be, the way that we always get it? If he turns out that he's actually an advanced robot,
mm.
the robot dude.
There's a good argument for Elon Musk being long gone or sat in some underground bunker somewhere. They say, don't they? A lot. I use the word "they" a lot because I never know who these people really ultimately are. But with the reset, I point the finger at the Jesuits and then the
Yeah,
bloodline families and so on. But with
totally.
regard to the sort of whole Bohemian Grove type thing, they say that a lot of people that have been to Bohemian Grove and places like that have been cloned, and that the original Mark Zuckerberg, for example, is now locked away in some basement somewhere in an underground bunker. And the person that we see is AI
Mm.
or a clone, and it's not the real person.
Well,
So Elon Musk could have long gone.
for
I
sure.
mean,
And
we
Zuckerberg, remember that clip? And when he says, "I used to be human."
Used to be a human, and he
Yeah,
struggled to take
when
his hoodie off, didn't he? This hoodie that had this very
that
weird sort of I think it might have been Masonic
it
sort
was.
of sim
Yeah,
in the back, inside, wasn't it?
inside
Inside the
on the
back.
back. Yeah.
And he's struggling to actually be able to take this hoodie
Do
off. He's struggling with
you
the zip and
remember when he tried to
but
be cool and he came out and he put this clip out? It was someone's sauce, some American sauce, and he was doing this clip and he's cooking a barbecue or something. Like it was a clear, they'd made it to try and make him look human.
mm,
He's going, "Oh, I love this sauce." Oh, and he's, "Oh yeah, I'm so cool." And then he put this other clip out like the next day, and this sauce was on the shelf behind him, like on his bookshelf by
oh
itself, this
yeah.
bottle of sauce. And everyone's like,
Mhm.
"What the hell is that?" But I mean,
mm,
what if that's because he's AI and he doesn't quite know how to be human? He knows things go
mhm.
on shelves, but he can't differentiate between a
Yeah.
cool bottle, sauce that people like or an ornament, right?
You
Mm,
know, like we see this cloning thing as like a relatively new disclosure, relatively new concept, right? The last couple of years the cloning thing's become very big. Maybe the last 10 years it's been in the consciousness of the truthers, but like if you think about it, if the game has always been the takeover of the human race by AI, if that's always been the game through reset after reset after through all our concepts of time and history, that's been the game, then cloning is a completely arbitrary integrated like process. It's like cloning that's them like inching towards doing it to the entire human race, right? Like
Hmm.
cloning, if you are working with the AI parasitic takeover, then of course cloning is just a natural extension of that. Well, that is the ultimate goal, is it not? To be able to clone the biological vehicle in using AI, so that's integrated into this parasitic text, which
Hmm.
we have given the label Satanism to, where
Yes.
we've literally given the label of demons to this concept. And it's been that demonic energy, that satanic energy, it's been with us forever,
Hmm.
for fucking ever. So cloning to me is just a natural and obvious side effect of this like this plight to integrate. So
Yeah.
why would they not release into the world all the celebrities, the stars, the politicians, the bloodlines that are cloned, that are already
mm,
integrated? They've already taken the fucking whatever. They're already that. They're done. They're gone. They're not humanity anymore. And we
Oh,
know
yeah.
that. We can feel that. They're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
humanity. They never make decisions in alignment with humanity. They never make
Totally.
decisions. Hollywood and fucking the music people, they go on and on with their bullshit realities. They never address any of the actual issues that are the plights of humanity. Never, ever, ever.
No,
It's like, so there's no humanity in
no,
them,
that
which
they're
is
not
so
us. Mm.
them governing our world puts us in a state of dehumanization. They make all the
Totally.
decisions around the world politically to dehumanize, to enact wars that none of us would ever agree with or even generate as an idea. You know, all these ghastly ideas that are the torturous ideas that cause so much suffering. We would never generate. We would never contemplate. We'd never create. That's AI. That's unempathetic, uncompassionate, soulless AI. And that's all those people. That's including, well, Trump. You know, I mean, it could be amazing if Trump was sort of something about Trump got intercepted by good energy that sort of intercepted the AI takeover. I mean, I don't know. Trump's an
He's an
confusing one.
anomaly. So we'll have to see what Trump does. But
Let me show you this clip. Just to blow our minds around the minuscule world of AI. It is the minute. It totally past our abilities to perceive. All right, here we go.
If this doesn't blow your mind, that's a human hair right there.
Human hair.
This is the Apple CPU, the little chip that's in your phone or your computer. Yeah, watch it and tell me this is not fallen angel technology. I don't know what to say. Because nobody can make something like this. Not even a laser can shoot down that far and create something like this. Yep, just keep watching. We're going way deep. Oh yeah, we're not done yet. It goes further. Yep. And we hit the bottom, finally. This is just, it blows my mind. I can't even fathom it. I can't understand it. But that's exactly what fallen angel technology does. You can't even imagine. Watch this right here and tell me if this doesn't blow your mind.
I mean, that's
a human hair right there.
Okay, so just pick up a piece of your hair. Just look at one strand of your hair right now. Everyone in the audience, one tiny strand of your hair. Like, just take it and look at it visually. Look at your beard. Like
I did think that after I said that.
Get a pube, get one piece of hair, right? I've got one in my hand right now. It's so completely tiny. That microscope went in probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of degrees smaller.
Yeah, man, that thing, I can hardly even see.
They're like layered and layered and layered. It is so insane. It's so insane. It actually blows your mind. Like how minuscule the AI is in our reality. It's like beyond our perception.
That's what we're told the quantum realm is, right? The infinitely small, which is where everything, all the rules of physics go out the window. So it's almost like another dimension, right? Like, is that what it is? But I mean, that makes sense, right? Why wouldn't, what else would AI do but apart, if it could have the technology to make its own empty vessels that it could then inhabit, then that's clearly what it would be doing. And we've had all these stories of clones and clonies coming out, and I saw a video the other day and they were saying that basically all the stars have clones, because, so they sit back and the clone goes up and does a concert or whatever. And I think we talked about it on our podcast like a year or so ago, that there was the whole theory that they also make clones of themselves and then sell them off for like sex dolls, basically. So
yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
There's some very weird parties going on. Yeah.
Total lack of human emotion. Total lack of discard for humanity. Just like sex bots.
They don't relate to us at all, and we don't understand them at all. Like, yeah, it's true that they're clearly. Because whenever I get asked, people say, "Oh, who are they? Who are they?" And my answer is, they're not us.
Yeah,
that's
all.
And they
know.
play.
They
They play with the minuscule. So we've got really obsessed with parasites. I've got a story about parasites. We've got really obsessed with parasites, and parasites are the realm of the microscopic. They're tiny. Bacteria, mold, this tiny. It's the microscopic tiny, and they really manipulate the parasitic realm. Like that seems to be hand in hand. As far as if we look at AI being here forever in the entire history and existence of what we know reality of Earth is, then would they not start with the micro, introduce the most micro biological parasitic AI influence creations, right? We get deluded by this idea that AI is big. because we see big things, you know, we see satellites, we see big things, we see objects of technology that are quite big, you know, we see like we see the robots, they're big, human size, so they give us this perception that AI generates things that are like quite significant and large in scope. But when you actually look into it, the AI is minuscule. It's the time, and all of that is just like a cover, a holding vessel, you know.
Yeah.
So it's like a minuscule world, and the parasite thing is a minuscule world, and
Yeah,
it's so
well,
fascinating to me. So let me
that
tell you a
chip
little
we just
parasite
saw
story.
is literally where they live, right? In
Yeah,
the tiny minuscule. Well, it
yeah.
lives.
Tiny minuscule world, but it gets projected large, gets projected
Mm,
large on this realm,
mm,
right? So again, we just get caught up in the delusion of scale, right? So here we are freaking out that they're bringing out a human AI robot that like the size of us, but like
mm.
literally the minuscule level of tech is, you know, just rain down on us from the skies, from like the fucking chemtrails and blah blah blah, this tiny and hundreds of degrees tinier than a strand of hair. You
That's
know, like the integration of AI into humanity is coming in at the minuscule level, not the macro.
yeah. Remember
I just want to
Tron?
point that out.
Remember
Tron,
Tron,
yeah.
where he
Yep.
literally goes in and you know he gets shrunk right down and he's in a whole different world.
Mm.
And also,
Shrunk the kids and all right.
Also, I watched a few things randomly the other day, and it was basically promoting the idea that tobacco kills nanotech.
Nice.
Just
Right.
interesting, says me as
Uh,
I'm just
there's also
interesting.
with the tobacco there. Obviously, tobacco was used originally as a medicine, and
Yeah.
the studies that were done during the pandemic showed that people that smoked seemed to be recovering faster.
Yep.
I wondered whether or not that the medical intervention that took place, actually what they were injecting could well have had a chip in it
Oh, for
that
sure.
talks to
Yeah, yeah.
5G. Mm.
Self-assembling nanoparticles.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
And
I've seen videos where they've got it in a petri dish under a microscope,
mm,
and you see these little things, and they start collecting up into each other and making little
yeah,
shapes. Yeah.
yeah.
But I
Well,
mean,
interestingly, sorry, go on,
I was
Cameron.
just going to say, wouldn't it explain a lot of what's going on? You know, everyone, you know, that the whole orphan train thing, you know, of Cabbage Patch Babies, right? You know, link for Guy's book below, guys. Pepper and the Cabbage Patch Babies. But you know, it's like we it looks like there's this empty world, empty cities, blah blah blah, no children. Then suddenly all these incubator babies and people, you know, we get repopulated, and it's like, well, why are they repopulating us, whoever they are? They clearly, because now they're trying to wipe us out again, right? What's the point? What, just
Mm,
to control us so we can work in factories? I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense, really.
And
But
then Cam,
if the agenda is to get bodies for AI to live in, that's a whole different game, right? Then that does make sense.
mm,
and you add the concept that in the truther community or the light workers, if you say, like there's always been this like channeled concept that we have chosen to come down here, and we're the toughest of the tough to come down
Mm,
and like implode this, that our soul energy is far more untouchable than the AI, like that we are here to bring this reset about, this shifting consciousness about, that there's an energy in our souls that cannot be hijacked
mm,
from this AI. That, and it makes sense to me that if the orphan trains existed in that capacity, then it is now that these souls, starting with the way back in my, you know, younger days, the idea of the indigos coming in and the rainbow kids and the crystal kids, like coming in, coming souls coming down to fight this war, to bring about this shift in consciousness. And like, and that's what the war's about, right? A shift. It's about breaking through the AI perception grid, breaking through that perception of how reality is that's been given to us and programmed into us and integrated into our cultures so thoroughly. And so there is there is an argument for that, that there are souls that came down en masse to bring about this shift, and we are that. We are those souls. And that could possibly happen in our lives that would ever convince us that the AI integration is something that is a positive or life-affirming action. Like, we stand opposed to it. We use it, we're integrated into it to exist and communicate and to be in this world. But, and I was saying last night, imagine now, like, here we are in this reality, and we don't often think about this. Now, like, let's say the shifts happened, and and this whole thing's happened, and we've re-entered a perception of reality that is entirely free, that has a massive broad view, that understands what's happened, that has a cognitive awareness of the bigger picture, that is like, we understand who we are, our history, where we've come from, all the things we have no answers to currently. We don't even know if we're real biological beings at this point. Like, we have no answers to anything. We don't even know the shape of the earth or what is space, or we don't know anything, right? That's all been stripped from us. But imagine going forward now into, this has all happened maybe 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now, and we're out of that. We're absolutely out of that enslavement grid, right? Can you imagine looking back at this time on planet Earth and thinking, holy fucking shit, how on earth did we get through that? Like, it's ghastly. We live on a realm that's enslaved, that poison is rained down on us from the skies. I've been sitting here in Tangier in Morocco, and there's chemtrails all over my head, rained down from the sky, that our food has been deliberately poisoned to create deliberate diseases, to give us slow, painful deaths, expiry dates, like, and that's just consistent and accepted part of our reality, that our water's poisoned, that we have to pay, we have to work as slaves, we've got to pay taxes as slaves, we've got all these rules and regulations as slaves, we have no freedom on any of that. All of that's happening to us right now, and that we are being bombarded by delusion and lies. Like, that is the world that we currently are living in. Holy mother of God. And if we like stepped out of it for 10 seconds, we would be like, holy shit, how have we survived that? Like, like that slaughter, that like massive like wave of poison coming at us 24/7, just waves of poison. It's like insane. And I was sitting there thinking last night, like, that is pretty crazy concept.
It
Isn't
is.
it? I mean,
It is. I know I've thought about that before.
when you
It's
step out
crazy.
of it,
Yeah. Like, we, at this point, from our perspective, we don't even know what freedom is.
yeah,
We just want freedom from bloody debt slavery, like what's total
Yeah.
freedom? Like, we just don't have a concept. It's crazy. I was just thinking, like, with all these orbs in the sky, like, if they're plasma, and obviously the whole plasma apocalypse and all this kind of stuff, like, where's that coming from, right? Is that the Earth's natural defense system? Is that what happens when we're hitting this point where it, along with us, is being so bombarded with chemicals and poisons and being, cut up and ripped open, that's a defense mechanism, that it sends out all this plasma? Because there's definitely stories of these types of things happening in the past.
Yeah, the plasma events. Yeah.
Yeah. And then is that
that's
going to
interesting.
wipe out, a big chunk of the AI, right?
Because if we
We're
live,
kind of seeing that in the sky when it's taking out these drones, because they're clearly
yeah,
AI.
and we live in a polarized realm, right? So for in this reality, everything has an equal opposite, does it not? So if we've been, if electrical grids and technology and what is required for technology to exist has been like so integrated into our realm, then there would be a natural equal opposite to that, which would come in the form of the plasma, the ether. That natural equal. So, but I'm interested because, like, imagine if those, imagine if those orbs had been spotted in the sky 50 years ago. Like, how effortless it would have been for the government to come in and like completely own the narrative about it, completely own and generate whatever narrative they wanted to, and everyone would believe it. But now,
which they have, because it was about, well, it was the 50s, and there were actually lights seen over Washington as well, but the whole Foo Fighters World War II, but they grabbed that narrative, didn't they? They turned into spacemen. And
but now, Campbell, now we can't, it doesn't happen now, because now there's souls on this planet en masse, us, who will look at it now and basically like look at it from a much broader perspective. They will look at these drones in the sky. They'll look at these plasma balls and they will study it to the nth degree. They will look at it not from the eyes. They've totally dismissed anything the government says, completely uncontrolled like that. There's
Totally.
nothing that we do not take anything they say.
And we don't have any
as true.
proof that any of the UFO stuff was not the government.
Yeah.
Now we know for sure that they're much, much more advanced than they tell us.
Mm.
So that again could be preemptive. It could be, okay, they know that, because every time they've tried this, they get near the end and this bloody plasma comes in and wipes them out. So they're like, well, let's grab that narrative first, create all these, UFOs and call them space aliens. And then when it happens, we'll control the narrative.
We'll be the heroes.
But again, I don't think it's happened, right? It hasn't happened that
See,
way. Again, they just don't seem to be able to get over
No.
the hump.
And all the Hollywood movies to do with alien invasions, they all depict aliens as these ghastly, completely monstrous looking beings that are here just to
Parasites.
wipe out the realm. Like it's just like they're always these awful insect-like, alien beings that are just fucking scary as to look at, and they're like completely superior in strength and everything they just wipe us out. That movie after movie after movie after movie says that. But I remember a story Ramtha gave many years ago, and he was saying, even if these entities came down, and you were given the vision of a blue being, like 6 arms and maybe like 2 heads or something, that doesn't fit your paradigm of what is good of what looks like us, that we would just blow them up. We would reject them. The biggest issue to our advancement as a race is our prejudice. The prejudice is what plays into how evolved we can become. That in order for the higher the non-human consciousness come in and support us, or to be seen or to integrate with humanity, it would have to be done at a time where we drop our prejudice. So I believe that our truth communities around the world and our light working communities have been verging on and getting to a point where our prejudice has been dropped, so that we don't just take the response from the government or the response from these movies. We will actually really look at it with a non-prejudiced perspective. And we do. We look at it from, this could be this or this or this or this, and we bring in every sort of concept, but we don't immediately move to this idea of like, that's bad, let's destroy it, or that's unusual, we should be scared of it, or that's that's here to destroy us. Like so prejudice was a really interesting thing for me to chew on many years ago on that level, that in order for humanity to rise to this awakening to true sovereignty, we would have to drop prejudice. Prejudice has been embellished and fed into to become the foundational perception of our reality.
Yeah.
Like they play into prejudice so fucking well. Every war is about prejudice, nationalism, patriotism, religion. Oh, religion. Don't get me started about creating prejudice. Like every little step of the way. Who has what? Wealth creates prejudice. Color of skin creates prejudice. Language creates prejudice. It's just insane. Politics is all designed to create prejudice.
Yeah.
So as far as a tonality that has superseded and overrode and controlled the human race, I would put it down to prejudice versus anything else. And the truth community, or these souls that have come in, it's too narrow to say the truth community, but you know what I'm saying? Like these souls that have come in, our number one creed of all this content and research is to drop prejudice. It's to drop it.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Like we're literally, there's footage everywhere of what looks like, I don't know, right? Some kind of invasion from somewhere, UFOs.
Yeah.
And no one's freaking out. Everyone's just like, oh my God, it's a bloody government again. Or it's this, it's it. Like, like all the movies and that we've been ever shown, like the aliens show up and everyone freaks out and runs around and, cars are crashing everywhere and total chaos, but it's actually happening. And people are just like, wonder what that is. Clearly the government are involved. How are they involved? It's not the way I envisaged it would happen, right?
It's interesting because our prejudice within our communities have skewed now to be prejudiced against the government
Government.
against this. We've skewed now to
Mm.
like be prejudiced against the delusion, against the lie, against the creators of the delusion, the holders of those lies. And it's so,
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it's an interesting thing to look at.
Well, it is,
As
and that's
far
why
as
AI can't beat us, right? Because every time it gets there, we work it out because it
Mm.
shows its hand because it's not human. Like AI can't like this is why these entities, it's another thing, right? Is they hate humor. They hate being laughed at. They don't, it's like they don't understand it.
well,
Mm.
chat's trying
Yeah,
to
it's-
become humorous,
yeah, but
trying to like
trying, but it's
integrate on
not
that level.
succeeding. I mean, there's these certain human traits that, the people that are put up in front of us, the stars and the politicians and whoever they may be, right? Those who aren't us, they just don't seem to get some of the concepts that we just take as being human, like a sense of humor,
Mm.
right? And these different types of things. So,
Do you think that's true of the parasites as well? I mean, it, not exactly sure whether he ultimately is a parasite or not. But whenever I think of Charles, King Charles, as we now have to call him, now that's a
right?
person that's always struck me as having absolutely no sense
No,
of
yeah,
humor
no,
whatsoever.
no,
And also, I think that there's a lack of ability to have any form of creativity or love or passion with these people too.
yeah, totally.
And when he and Diana were interviewed when they just got engaged, and it was quite a famous interview. They stood at, I think, the bottom of a stairway, and this reporter said to them, "So are you in love?" And Charles said, "Whatever that means."
Mm.
And I thought that this man doesn't know what love means, because they clearly are not like us. They
Mm,
don't operate and they don't vibrate like we do. They're a very low vibrational,
right.
lack of creativity. There's no art, passion,
Yeah,
or anything there. And I
yeah.
wonder if that's their permanent state.
Well, it's true. I
Makes
mean,
sense.
most of these families, they don't raise their own children.
No.
Right? They're raised by nannies and stuff and sent off to
Mm,
boarding schools, and there is no
And
connection. There is no
no.
love there like we would see it. And I mean, I've been thinking too about Harry and the
Mm,
whole Harry thing, right? Like, and we all,
mm,
kind of know that Charlie isn't his dad. And he's been like ostracized. Like,
mm.
is that because he's onto them, do you think? Because, it's been
no,
put out as
I
he's the
keep
crazy man, right? And look, he's most crazy in that. Do you think because he's not of Charlie's bloodline, he's only a half-blood, right? You think
I've
maybe
thought
he
I
that a
don't.
hasn't
few
asked the
times.
questions? I don't know.
I don't think they would integrate children into that position that were half bloods. I think if anything, they would be used to make the royal family look more human, by
Yeah,
design. That
maybe.
they've got this rebel in the family, like every family has the black
The
sheep
black
and
sheep.
he's out there doing, but like the reality is, like if you look at the monarchs and everyone involved in the monarchs, they've never done one thing that's an act of love for humanity with all their power and all
I
their
know.
wealth.
Mm,
Never once. Harry's never
mm,
done anything in like the
Yeah,
celebrities don't do
good
it.
point. Yeah.
The musicians don't do it. The
No.
politicians definitely don't do
I,
it. They never do an act of love for humanity.
no.
Ever.
I
Ever,
don't get
ever.
it.
And
I saw I saw an interview with Mariah Carey, and she was like 18 or 9, or well, maybe in her 20s, but young. And the guy was asking her, he's like, "Oh, who pays your electric bills? Or, does someone do that? Who looks after that for you?" And she's like, "What? Bill? Bill who? Who's Bill?" And he's like, "No, like bills, for your electricity." And she's like, "Who's Bill?" And he's like, "No, you have to pay for your electricity." And she sits there and thinks, and she goes, "Oh no, it's free in America. We don't have to pay for that." Like she had
mm.
no clue that we
Yeah.
even have to pay bills.
So
Like
maybe
that,
that what you were talking to, what we were seeing there is a clone.
mate, yeah,
of course,
Just enough basic information to or program to.
exactly. Because growing up, I mean, as far as we know, she didn't come from, a really, really wealthy family. So she would have known at least what a bill was, but she had no idea.
Mm, yeah, yeah, she'd have had her parents arguing over them.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's interesting, right?
Get off the
Who
bloody
are we
phone. Do you know
seeing?
how much that costs?
Yeah, So they're just completely unrelatable to us. They don't understand at all,
No,
right? Like at
no.
all. And we don't see them. Everyone thinks, like that they know these people, but you see them in a movie, and then they might do 3 or 4 interviews for the movie, and then they disappear.
Mm,
They don't exist for like a year or two until the next movie comes out or the next award
yeah.
ceremony. Like we
Or
don't know.
pop out 3 or 4 movies in a very short period of time. And you think, how the hell is that possible for one person to do that?
Yeah.
How many of them are there?
Well, Bruce
And
Willis
you
did
know,
that,
like,
didn't he?
Mm,
It's Bruce Willis.
yeah.
It was a couple of years ago. He suddenly put out all these movies, like heaps, but they were all kind of B grade type movies.
Mm,
And but heaps. He's just in all these movies from the early sort of 20s, and then it comes out that he's got dementia, I think, is it, or he's
yeah,
got
and he
yeah.
can't even talk
can't even
anymore.
talk
Like
anymore.
that.
So yeah, people were
Mm,
saying, was that a clone that they get clones set up to
But
to make
but
money
let's
off his
yeah.
name before he lost it?
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
also add the theory that clones we are also a delusion of time for us. That yes, they're presenting this idea, they're exposing this idea of clones, but in reality, how long have they used digital technology
Oh,
to make these movies? How long have these people been just, digitally inputted into these movies forever? I mean, if we take the clone concept, like I guarantee that that's just like that was 100 years
well,
ago. That was 50 years ago. Like, it's just like, yes, here's that. That's what we were
yeah,
doing 50 years ago. But we think it's today. We think it's like now, like big expose, there's clones. It's like our whole
no,
society's cloned and it's been going on forever.
yeah.
It's
Well, that goes
always
back
like
to the
that.
very beginning, doesn't it? I mean,
Well,
that's what
I
the
was gonna.
Anunnaki did.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, the whole.
exactly.
Yes, I'm
Yes.
actually reading a
They're,
bit of the Bible yesterday. The whole two creation stories, which are literally on the same page, by the way. But it's like the Lord, whoever the Lord is,
mm,
put Adam into a deep sleep, right? So he could cut him and steal his rib. Like, it's like deep sleep. What does that mean? Is that a general anesthetic?
mm,
Yep.
Because it's
Yep.
it's what it sounds like.
yeah. Lord
That's
Enki.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Lord
And during
Enki,
that,
yeah.
Mm,
yes, during that Enki Enlil time period was also the time where humanity was apparently taken to Africa, which was
mm.
meant to be the motherland of the current humanity, taken down into labs, and we were,
Adam's calendar.
genetically
Yep.
modified. That's right. And that's
Mm,
where we got this shift from sort of primate reality, tribal, the natives, into sort of like more sophisticated slaves, where a little bit
mm,
more of our brain. We were genetically modified. Every single
mm,
master teacher I've had over my lifetime has said that story. Every single one of them, without exception, has referred to the motherland, Africa, and the cloning of the human race.
mm.
Like, and they those timelines have gone back, according to these teachers, like 450,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So
on available
whatever time is,
information, like there's a lot of anomalies in humans, like blood types. What the hell?
Mm.
Why do you have all
Yeah.
these different blood types? Why do we have a
Yeah.
different chromosome? Why do we have different hairlines? Like,
Mm.
I've got a big widow's peak. Some people go straight across. Some people go bald like you guys. Some people,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
right? There's these different, and I can't grow a beard, right? Like to save myself. So that's weird. Like, don't you think
Mm.
that's just a weird thing? I can't,
Yeah.
like, there's all these weird things that don't kind of make sense about humans as far as, I mean, we know we didn't evolve, but even, coming from the same whatever stock, there's just so many anomalies in our makeup. It's crazy.
I wonder sometimes if there are only so many molds.
Exactly. Yes, definitely thought
Bec-
that
There's
one.
I mentioned it in the book that there's a Google um, app that you can use where you upload a photo of yourself and then it scans to see how many people out there look identical to you. And I don't mean similar, I mean identical. And it brings them all up.
Have you done
Now
it?
that's bizarre. I haven't done it because I don't want to do it. I had a really weird experience when I was about 18 years old. I was with a group of friends walking through Oxford, and I was at the back because I was smoking, and I think I'd stopped to light my cigarette, and I'd just trailed behind slightly by about 10 steps. And there's a couple sat on a bench, and he looked just like me. And I looked at him, and he looked at me. His girlfriend looked at me, and then at him, and then the group of friends I was with, they all turned around to see whether I was still there or I had somehow walked past them and was now sat on a bench talking to somebody else. And it was this weird moment where we all froze and looked at each other and then carried on walking. And a week after that, I was in London on Oxford Street, and I was at Oxford Circus, where there's a big department store called Topshop. And I was stood outside there. Again, I was having a cigarette while my friend went inside. And a girl came up to me and she said, how are you? And I said, I'm fine, thanks. How are you? And she started chatting, and I'm making small talk, just being polite. And she slapped me around the face. And she said, I can't believe that you're treating me like that, and stormed off. And I couldn't understand what was going on. And she came back about a minute later and she said, I am so sorry. I thought you were someone I met last weekend. Said, I've never seen you before in my life. And that happened within a week.
Wow.
That's a fucking trip, man. That is
crazy.
a great story.
Yeah,
Okay.
stayed with me. You think I was about 18 years old, so that was a long time ago, and I can remember it so clearly. So they're out there. So are there so many of us?
Come on. Have you got the link
Yeah.
from your book? What is the link, guy? Give
I was
everyone the
going to
link.
No,
say,
I didn't put.
do you think
I
that
didn't put.
the
Sorry.
Cabbage
Oh, you
Patch
didn't.
Babies, are they
Mm,
clones? Yeah. What's your
mm.
theory on that?
Yeah, absolutely, they're clones. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. The whole incubator thing. If you look at Martin Cooney in the World's Fairs, where he's demonstrating the incubators for the first time, the backstory is really strange, because they say in America that all of the World's Fairs had children in these incubators that were on loan from maternity wards in New York, and in London at the World's Fair in London that they came from Paris. And I'm thinking, do the parents mind?
Yeah.
What about the parents? We're just going to borrow your baby that's been born prematurely, and they're going on display in an exhibition somewhere. So first of all, that would be a little bit odd. Secondly, shipping them all over the place, they're not going to be as premature by the time that they've arrived wherever they're going and they're on display and they've been there for 3 months. They're not as premature as they were at the very beginning, are they? And but also ultimately, a lot of them were for sale. You could buy these babies.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Mm.
where were all these premature babies from? Why was there suddenly a need for these incubators? And why, if it was, well, it's technology, before that these premature babies just died? Really? Well, there's nothing in the history books to say anything about that. That up until the point where the incubator was invented, thousands of babies died every year as a result of being prematurely born. That's not documented anywhere. All we know is all of a sudden the incubator started. They went on exhibition in the World's Fairs all over the world. Infants came, apparently these babies were transported all over the place, and ultimately you could buy one, a baby, that is.
Mm.
So where did they all come from?
Yeah,
Where,
and
if they are?
And
Yeah,
Guy,
so
that sets up also the question, like, where were all these women giving birth in institutions in the first place that they could catch the premature baby? I mean,
yeah.
today it's unusual that you have a preemie. Like it's not common still. Like premature babies are not something that just like happens all the time. You know, like your body has a natural organic process of incubation. It's something has to occur for the female that would make it premature. Like
Yeah.
something has tripped it into a false birthing process.
Well,
Like, and
yeah,
that's been manipulated,
for
right?
damage. Yeah, yeah.
But
Because
if
Yeah.
we
but
it,
he was premature because my ex, like from the first birth, which was induced and shouldn't have been, she had some damage and she couldn't hold, the baby long enough to term. So But that's because of medical intervention.
Yes, exactly. And like in
Yeah.
order for these thousands, even hundreds of thousands of premature babies to appear at the same time, that they would then have to invent technology to hold them and then transport them alive and then sell them on. Like for that to happen, literally, that would mean hundreds of thousands of women were in hospitals, which, you know, it doesn't fit the timeline. It doesn't
No.
fit the timeline that these
No,
women are all in. We
but
don't see
it would
pictures of
have to be as
thousands of women in hospitals where the doctors are literally
yeah, I
catching this
know.
tiny
Quick, we
little,
got one.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, and when a baby's
Doesn't make
premature,
sense.
quite often it's not breathing. It's not,
Yeah.
it's like, it's not alive. It's not animated yet. Quite often it has to be, they have to intervene quite heavily
Mm.
to like
To
get
get them
it
to a terminal
alive.
sort of size, yeah.
So it
Mm.
doesn't make sense that hundreds of thousands of women were
No, it doesn't
lying
make sense at
around
all.
in hospitals where these premature babies were being delivered and then like kept alive
And
and
then
then
suddenly they're
transported
like,
and
yeah,
then sold.
I've just had my premature baby. Can we grab it and take it and put it on show?
Yeah.
Sure. I'll just let
And
you.
Yeah.
plus at
Yeah,
the same
post it back.
timeline,
Most
the
of it.
same
Other
timeline here
sport.
historically doesn't prize life. Like if you look at all the images around that time, it was like images of starving people and gutter rats and children in rags and
Yep.
people selling them on their doorsteps. Like the culture at the time wasn't in a position to prize life.
No.
If we take the stories and the narrative, the culture was saying we can't even feed the babies we have. We can't even feed the mothers. We can't even house them. We can't even, they're shitting in the streets. Like we cannot, it would not be a natural process then to come in and try to save
Save all
all
these
of these
premies, yeah.
premature babies. I mean, it
And
doesn't make sense.
did you come across the incubator guide where I think I've only seen one photo of it, but it says they can grow like a baby to a year old in 3 months or something like that?
Yeah.
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 That's crazy, right? What's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Have you seen the films by Alice Guy, the French actress and movie director and producer?
Are they
One's
the old
called
black and white ones?
yeah, one's
Yeah.
called The Cabbage Patch
The
Fairy,
Cabbage
and the
Patch.
other one
Yeah,
is
yeah.
The Midwife to the Upper Classes. And the
Yeah,
way they throw the babies around is incredible.
yeah, she picks them up
Yeah.
by their feet and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then just
It's
drops them
insane.
on the floor. And
Yeah.
but what's
Certainly
really weird
not.
is the upper class couple that come to buy this baby, they don't really they look like they haven't seen one before.
Yeah.
And they don't really know what to do with it. And when you
Yeah.
look at old photographs of what we'd consider to be the Tartarians wandering around places like New York, you don't see many children.
No.
You don't see any
No.
babies. There's no
Never.
push chairs or buggies or anything like that, prams
No.
or pramulators.
No.
You don't see anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
So it's
No.
almost like when these babies appeared, the incubator babies and the Cabbage Patch babies, that a lot of people hadn't seen one before.
Totally. Totally. There's a lot of
And
photos like that when they're holding them and they're like, what is this?
What is it?
And isn't that a
Yeah.
dichotomy? Because like in order to fucking invest heaps of money to creating technology that's going to house and save the lives of premature babies, you would have to have a level of care for babies in the first place. But everywhere we see is images of people just chucking them over their shoulders, chucking them on beds, picking up by legs. Like literally, the culture itself demonstrates they had zero level of care. Like handle with care. This is a premature baby or a baby in general. There is no handle with care. Like, and you only would create technology at the level of trying to save the life of a premature baby if you were handling it with care, you know? And they did not, it wasn't revered. It wasn't put into the culture as an act of love. It wasn't any of those things.
No.
It was purely a mechanism to like deliver children to families, deliver these things. It was deliverance. It was a postal service.
Yeah,
It was a
they
fucking postal
literally
service.
did send some by the post.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah. That's so they're cloned, but human. So what would the point of that be, do we think? Is that just to repopulate, or is that so that they're trying to work out how to make empty vessels and they need to keep going forward and having a gene pool to work from? Or
No, I think, Campbell, because I think there was repopulation. But I think in order for the AI to do what it has been trying to do forever, the consciousness of the human race has to create it. Like, so they need they need to
Yeah.
repopulate with humans in order for the humans to generate the consciousness. And
Build
it's
the
the
computers and
the
stuff.
consciousness
Yeah,
which
yeah.
gives life. Our consciousness animates the tech. Our consciousness animates the reality. They need humans with souls, whatever state those souls are in, because from our perspective, if you create a vessel, it doesn't have a soul in. Our soul enters after the
Yeah.
vessel's been generated, and it brings the life. It creates the animated version of it. You know, so without humans giving that animated consciousness to reality, we cannot, they cannot have anything to, it's like they're missing the images. They're missing the visual images. You know, they can bring in compartments because AI is soulless and
And have no
non-life.
hands as well. It can't actually construct the things that it needs to progress to
Exactly.
this
It has no
point.
fucking hands. It's
Yeah.
right.
Mm.
It doesn't have a thumb, which is the cornerstone of
No,
civilization.
exactly.
So
Right.
so there we have, like, the reason to repopulate the planet is to regenerate the consciousness, which then recreates the reality. So if
Yeah.
energy and consciousness creates the nation of reality, then they need that. They need that organic life source to flow through in order for it to get to where we are today. Because without us, they can't create themselves. Without us, they can't imagine themselves. Without us, they can't exist. We are the bridge to
Mm,
them experiencing a physical reality.
mm.
I also
So
think that,
that's,
sorry, I
no,
was going to
go.
say, I also think that if you look at the Industrial Revolution, that and look at the orphan train movement, that it was mainly children that were mining, children that
Oh,
were in
for
the
sure.
Yeah.
in the workhouses and factories and farms. So I think that they've always needed to repopulate, to have a workforce and an infrastructure. But I think now AI's got to a point where if they were to wipe us out with a series of comets or a deluge, that AI is in a position now where they wouldn't need to repopulate because they've got it
Got
right, haven't
robots.
they?
Yeah, we've hit robots
A
already.
robot could make their burger for them and wipe their ass for them, and all the things that we have done for these people, we no longer have. Well, we're no longer required. They can replace us quite easily, can't they, with AI? So I wonder if there was to be a huge reset and a cataclysmic event, whether or not we would see cloning again. Has that now served its purpose? They wouldn't
Well,
need
I
to
mean,
repopulate to the extent they have done before.
in my mind, repopulation is reanimation. If we live in a reality that has to be envisioned to exist, and the AI, all
Yeah,
it can
yeah,
do is
yeah.
replicate and
Good point. Yeah,
regurgitate.
it's not creative.
It
No.
can't
Mm,
reanimate forward. It can't envision forward, because that comes with the unique disposition of life. And the
mm,
human vehicle with the soul creates life. A soul can't go into a robot. So in order to repopulate, in order to reanimate, they need to repopulate. In
Yeah.
order to reanimate a reality that they exist in, they need to repopulate. We are, I see us as, we always say that we're their battery, but like literally, if you think about that concept really deeply, we are what gives them life. We are what gives, if we're in a
Well,
realm with no humanity, they have no life.
and
It's so
what is
symbiotic. That's why
reality?
it's parasitic.
Mm.
That's why it's parasitic.
Are we creating
That's the
reality?
parasitic nature.
Because this is the thing, right? If we create reality through our consciousness and our thoughts, would there even be a reality for AI to exist in if there weren't humans doing that?
I don't mean
Yeah, I
wiping
mean,
us all out. I mean we constantly hear that we're
Ruthless eaters.
overpopulated. We're
which
overpopulated.
is
There are too many people on the
bollocks.
planet, which is absolutely. So I think that if they were to depopulate, perhaps through a series of medical interventions and masts and so on, that they're going to get rid of a big chunk. Yeah, get rid of a big chunk of us. That they wouldn't need to repopulate to the extent. So let's say that that they could lose 50% of the population of the planet, they would still have everything that they need. But for some of the mundane tasks that we perform, doing jobs that we hate to just remain a debt slave, a lot of those could be replaced. They would still have everything they need. There would still be people, but we wouldn't need as many, is kind of my thinking.
They're doing
So
it now with
let's
robots. They got robots
Mm,
cleaning and serving food and doing God
yeah.
knows what, right? Most of the factory jobs are now robots. So
Mm,
yeah.
But we are here. So like here's the thing, right? Whenever, like, if you look at us coming down as souls into these vehicles, and our consciousness is in total dichotomy and total opposition to the AI consciousness. So we are here reanimating a totally different version of reality. And like we don't understand the true power of like if you can look at that strain of hair and the micro smallness of technology and how unbelievable that is to us, that's the same level of unbelievableness we would have if we truly understand the power of our consciousness.
mm,
That how our consciousness is actually governing all of this. And here we are in this great awakening, as we say it, like reanimating a consciousness that takes the AI out of the equation. So in order for them to hold the biggest dream, they've got to have people. They've got to have the most amount of people with the most amount of consciousness skewing to their version of events that will create the fucking reality that we exist
Totally.
in. And
Yeah.
here we are.
That's
Here
what
we are,
media is. Yeah.
totally fucking contradicting everything, imagining a totally different reality forward. We are the beings that are at war with the AI. And it's our consciousness that is in war. So the vaccine was all about furthering their agenda of animating a certain consciousness. The food, the poisoning, it's all about the technology, it's all about animating a certain version of events.
Yeah.
And yet
Yeah.
here we are.
Well, they try and
Stronger,
steal.
brighter,
Mm.
bigger dream. We have a bigger fucking dream.
We must
We
be
have a bigger fucking dream.
we must be pissing AI off, man. But that's what all the media and the movies and everything are, is to get us to all think what they want us to think so that we create the reality that they want us to create, right? Clearly.
And that's the perfect dance, is it not? That
Mm.
like, you know, we get to a point always at the apex of a pole shift, at the apex where the technology has to be released into the human beings, into the population, to animate a certain consciousness. But having done that, they also know, and they're very aware of this, that it's going to free up another level of consciousness, the polarized version. So the same technology has enabled the three of us to sit here and talk this through to an audience like that. It like delivers a completely different sense of. So it's like it's always this like polarized equal opposite. And always when we come to this apex moment, I would say always.
Yeah.
So I think AI technology is only as powerful as the amount of people that are consciously animating it.
That believe it, that worship it, should we say, maybe.
mm.
Mm. And
But I tell you
agree.
what, you get me in a room with a group of people who have like taken the and like in alignment or in alignment with the
Jibber
AI
jabbers.
consciousness. You put me in that room, and I swear to God, the level of energy and power that runs through my consciousness supersedes 100 of theirs. Like it's so obvious. You can see the tangible impact of my energy field. You can see it, you can feel it in my words, the way I speak, the
I've
confidence,
seen
the certainty,
it.
there's a bigness to organic consciousness. That's what I'm saying. And it would be
Yeah.
true of all of us, you guys as well. If we
And
had you on
it
stage,
triggers people, right?
because
Triggers the AI invested, yeah.
yes, it's so alive and energized in us. It's so alive and energized in us that it's like so obviously powerful in comparison. So I always feel like my vehicle walking around, I'm sure you guys will relate to this, is like a nuclear bomb in those experiences. Like its ability to explode energy of this consciousness onto a group of that consciousness supersedes them 100 to 1, you know, 1,000 to 1, you know, 10,000 to 1. I could sit there and speak at a Wembley arena to 100,000 people with my consciousness and blow out 100,000 of the people who are backing AI because it's lifeless. AI consciousness has no life. It's
Mm.
soulless. It's
No
loveless.
creativity.
It
Mm.
has no life. Love always wins. Love always wins. So love's consciousness is the ultimate. You can't get past it. It is the ultimate. And if that's what we're carrying around in us, we are nuclear bombs. That's why they always say we've come down here to bring about this change.
Mm.
But yeah, we've been deluded into the idea that we're just small human beings doing our little part, doing this little podcast, talking to our neighbor, whatever. They're not small actions.
No.
This is broadcasting like organic consciousness across the waves of AI.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a conundrum that it always gets to, right? It needs to get its tech out to reach its goal, but we then use its tech to expose it and kill it.
And they knew that. I am certain they know that. I'm certain that's what happens at every single time. I am certain they know that. They knew that this a moment there's a timeline. They know it. That's why there's so many people who are able to predict it. They know it. As soon as they make a move, the organic love-based service to others consciousness is empowered by it.
It's a chess game, right? The whole chessboard.
Mm.
We get empowered. We're empowered by their moves.
Yeah.
And, it wouldn't surprise me if those plasma orbs everywhere that are flying around are part of the supercharging of us. That they will bring a supercharged energy field, that they're part of the positive pole shift. They're part of the shift. I feel like it's going to affect time even greater for us. It's going to feel like our energy is going to be affected even greater. That coming into 2025, where we know that 2025 is going to be a big year. We know it. We know that this slow eye of the storm that we've been in for the last couple of years is over. 2025, shit's happening. I know it. I'm sure you guys feel that.
Sure.
We know it.
Yeah. Totally.
25 is big.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
all these things like the plasmic orbs and the monoliths, they're all going to work in our favor. We are going to be empowered by it. I'm certain of it.
Mm. Yeah,
The
man.
25th of January is the date, isn't it? To keep an eye on.
Which
The
one?
25th of January.
Dates
25th.
are so.
There's so many dates. I don't know what's happening on the 25th.
I don't know. I just keep hearing
day.
it. I just keep hearing the 25th of January.
When does Trump get in? It's the 20th or something, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
So it's not long after that. I mean, yeah, it could keep your eyes peeled, people.
One person I was talking to said we're going to see a sort of solar flare event or something like that.
What is that? What's a solar flare? Like we don't.
Yeah. That's debatable, isn't it?
But I mean that could be, a plasmic thing, right? Or some kind of
that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's given out by the organic.
Mm.
And it's interesting, empowered, right? Electromagnetic power.
Mm.
See, anything like the plasma balls, that's in contrast to the electrical grid that we have been born into, right? It's
Macro,
in contrast.
for sure.
Just like the stars, like seeing the cymatics of the stars and the cymatics of these balls, like that's in contrast to the reality we've been, given. So to me, that has to be in alignment with our consciousness. It has to be in alignment with our version of reality. It can't be any other way. It can't be in opposition to us. It's cymatics. Cymatics appear all through Tartaria. Cymatics appear all the way through things that are beautiful and life affirming to the human race. When you go down to the way that it creates shapes and the movement of water and the movement of microbiology, cymatics is life giving, life supporting. And so the fact that these orbs look like cymatics to me have to be inhued into our truth, our version of the truth that we're slowly inching towards, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's really, it's an interesting dance for us, for people who are conscious of all this, because you're constantly having to work towards disseminating the lies So you're basically having to throw yourself into investigation and research and go into the rabbit holes to basically get out of the delusion and illusion. At the same time, you have to put your energy attention into understanding what you actually are. You can't not put attention onto that. You can't put all your attention onto trying to break down the delusion and ignore the fact that you are this incredible, powerful nuclear bomb of consciousness, and put the same level of investigation into what is consciousness. You have to understand what is it that makes you up, that makes your role on this realm right now very poignant and very important. And that actually, like, it's a war of consciousness. I have many memories of past lives, whether they are, they're not real memories, or they're real memories, or they've been put into me, or I shouldn't have them. Whatever past lives are, like, I have memories that are not of this lifetime. They're clear, they're tangible, and there's a fucking lot of them. Campbell and I've talked about this before. I have a lot of them. And I can tell you this lifetime is a standout, one of a kind. It has not been experienced before. This level of this mental perception, it's all a mental lifetime. We're in a mental game with our perceptions. What's happening on the broader physical reality has come and gone, lifetime after lifetime. Civilizations rising, collapsing, different clothes, different fashions, different leader. But this game, that with this thing we're in, debating and debunking our perception of reality, that's a very unique situation we're in. We've never done that before. That's why I know it's super significant, and why we are going to be empowered by it, not disempowered.
Mm. Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the whole cymatic thing's a good point, that because with Dr. Emoto, when he puts, hate and stuff into the water, there's no structure to it, right? There's no cymatic there at all. It's only the positive that creates a cymatic shape. So yeah, well, there you go. So I mean, I definitely want to believe it's good, that the orbs, and I mean, I think that's something to keep in mind, right? If it's got structure, then it clearly is. It's a positive vibration.
I mean, look at what we've just seen with that clip, with the micro version going past the hair. Like, look at the visual image of it. It's not cymatics.
No,
it's not rounded.
The
It's not
rectangle and lines. Yeah.
Our AI, this AI, it creates it in straight lines, in ones and in squares. Like, it is, that is, that is their tech. But when we look at things like those orbs, they're completely the opposite paradigm of that. And our technology today doesn't generate things like that. It doesn't generate those images. It doesn't generate that at all, ever. No matter what, it does not. It doesn't work off that grid. So if we see things that are working off a cymatic template, it's empowering for us. Yes, indeed.
Macro grid, natural. Yeah, I'd agree with that. For sure, man.
Yeah. What an interesting conversation. I had literally no idea.
No.
Let me tell you something random. I want to share something random. So where I am right now is a place called Tangier. And I had no real conceptions of Morocco. I wasn't aware, really. I didn't do any deep dives into what Morocco was or its history. But I can tell you, I've only been to Casablanca and now we're here. All of it is a decayed Tartarian realm. Like, every place I've been is a Tartarian realm. Now, in the Western world, we sanctified the realm. So we took the old realm and we cleaned it up, the bits that we left, and we cleaned it up so it's sanctified. But here, it's just in a state of decay, like it has been since it was. They've literally just adapted to it, and it's decayed around them, and they've just lived in it. And that's what these and it's very tangible. I've been walking around, all the streets are lined in the same way, and it's the same in India. They're the same structures, the same decay, the same template in India. The cobbled stone walk, the really massively thick iron gates on the pavements that are their aqueducts and their plumbing. It's all integrated completely. There's heaps of Tartarian water fountains, and all this, it's all like walking around like this. There's a palace or a castle at top. and it's like on a mound, and then the marketplace winds itself around, and it's all integrated into plumbing and aqueducts, and it's all
Yep.
cobbled stones, and the buildings are all Tartarian in nature, and they've been here forever, right? They've not moved. And then all around them, there's the modern, attempts to like integrate and all the cement that's falling apart and all that stuff. Interestingly, and this is what I wanted to talk about, is that where I am, as I was saying before we started the podcast, it's famous for the beatnik poets and from the 50s, where the writers William Burroughs, Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, those sorts of writers. Howl is a very famous poem that came out of these times. They all found their way to Tangier. And in Tangier, they wrote most of this significant work, which has become known as the beatniks, the beatnik poets, and in Tangier, interestingly enough, it was famous because it's on it's opposite Genova, it's opposite Spain. And it's like, it's been up until the like 50s, 60s, it was international space. And it was full of prostitution, debauchery, drugs and alcohol, smugglers and pirates. It basically had no rules, right? It was like the boondocks of the culture. And so people would travel here, and they would, like, very famous. If you look at all the beatniks poets, it's all about prostitution and drugs and philosophy, and the spiritualities all sort of mixing into this sort of like post, couple of decades after the last war sort of thing, the 50s, 60s, 70s. Commentary on society. Now, it was interesting to me that as we walked, the first thing you'll notice when you get here is the entire city reeks of ammonia from cat urine.
Oh,
There's no animals here. Like, there's just thousands and thousands of cats, right? I've seen seagulls and cats. I've seen there's like one or two dogs, but nothing else, just cats. The entire place reeks of ammonia today. Like, it's just integrated into the walls and the rooftops and the floors. It's like, it's just integrated, right? And it got me thinking about the parasite connection and how,
Egypt's
this
not that
place was,
far.
yes. And how, oh, so sorry. Oh, so sorry. Oh, I'm speaking too loudly. I've woken everyone up.
They should be up by now.
It's 10:30. But
Yeah,
sorry,
come
I would
on.
apologize for that.
Sleep
And
their
by
lives
the way,
away.
they keep me up till 1 o'clock. Let me just be much quieter. So my point is that back in the 50s, this place was famous for sexual debauchery, right? And then it got cleaned up. But it's also famous for cats. And the one thing about the cats is it carried the toxoplasma parasite, which influences strongly the sexuality and the sexual desires of culture.
Yeah,
So all the way through Morocco and Egypt are this like fucking full on with cats, right? So it's so fascinating to me that there'd be a connection to a culture that was sexually like really perverse, yes, and fully onto it. Like, it was full on with the prostitution and the connection to the parasites and the cats. So I'm just saying that it's very interesting if you look at like parasites being actually the first version of AI cloning. The first version of AI cloning into the micro world, and it got integrated into the culture in the 17th century all the way through the 18th century, this push for humanity to be sexual, to like create sexuality, right? To reproduce. And so then we look at like the way that in the like 1800s, it disappeared, that they weren't reproducing, right? They weren't like doing it naturally. It wasn't a natural thing. So I mean, I'm just like, it's just very interesting with the parasite connection to these concepts. I think there's something still very powerful there in relation to understanding how AI has influenced the human like sexual reality, and to where we get today, where we like got people who think they're literally cats and dogs. I could literally think they're cats sexually. I mean, like, and we're at that cusp of that apex moment now, with that parasite has like integrated so strongly that we have a completely collapsed moral code around sexuality in our reality. In as far as sexuality goes,
on in the last week, man. Holy dooly.
it's morally, it's the lowest morality that we could get to. And on top of that, you've got this connection with the parasites and the AI and the children and the pedophilia, like that, the children and the pedophilia and the AI and the parasites, like that's all indicative of a massive push to collapse our moral virtue, our value system. and it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Today they call it OnlyFans, apparently, but yeah. Yeah. Interesting connection. Just like this
Yeah.
week, you probably didn't see it, Kel, but there was some OnlyFans girl who had sex with 100 men in a day.
Oh my God.
So yeah, bit of debauchery going on there.
I bet
Yeah,
her
and
parents are so proud.
Oh, I know, right?
and it's not just that. Like
She's a
if you think
keeper.
about if you think about the technology and how it's influencing children today, and how the technology is so
Yeah.
integrated, and the porn industry, how that
Porn,
came
yeah, it's all
about,
over it. It's all free.
and all through it, and like how kids at school today are like, they feel like their only way to connect is to give a 13-year-old boy a blowjob. Like that, it's just like so integrated into the culture now that it's just like, because they are living the lives of 20-year-olds, because time is sped up. And it's just like to the point where that pedophilic side has connected now with the reality that children are doing these actions of their own accord. Children are now taking are the pedophiles onto each other. Like they are raping each other at the age of 10 and 9 and 12, and it's just like normalized. So I mean, even like that sexuality has been brought down to the most minuscule. Like, like there's stories of 5-year-olds getting each other pregnant. I mean, that is insane in our concept, but it's all integrated around the AI and the technology. The parasites that 1 in 3 of us have in our brains influence sexuality. I mean, it's just, it's just the
Yeah,
thing, right?
yeah, for sure. Very, very interesting. Close to Egypt, and the whole cat thing, but mind control, parasites within, parasites without.
Do you find the
I mean,
domestic cat a strange thing? I mean, if they are ultimately, if they are part of the big cat family, then why do they have reptilian eyes?
Split eyes, yeah, different eyes.
Yeah, where
Completely.
does that come from? Because the big cats don't have that, do they? It is
No.
just the domesticated cat that
and
has
they
that.
hiss. They hiss like
Yes, they
snakes.
do.
Instead of roaring like a snake, right?
Yeah. So what is going on? And is that something to do with, that
Yes,
connection
yes.
with Egypt? Because they were
Yeah.
considered sacred, weren't they? They used to
Well,
mummify them and
Olives.
bury them.
There was a cat cult, basically, a cat-headed goddess. Yeah.
And also, you probably didn't watch that. We did a whole series on parasites and cats in Egypt, guy. And like, they mummified over 1 million cats. Like, why did they? And so we started with the theory that they were actually incubators and time incubators for fucking this parasite. That the cat is unique to holding this one parasite, which has infected the brains of, and the most influential parasite that changes and can skewer your version of reality. And it's in the cat. You can only get it in the cat, right? So like, and in Egypt, they mummified millions of fucking cats. Like, why? And here to this day, even though it's not like there's no like statues of cats around, it's almost like the cat is the revered pet. Everyone feeds them. They're just integrated. They're everywhere. It's just like common, has been like this forever. So the cat carries the parasite that influences the human brain more than any other parasite. More people in the world have it, and we have a completely broken sexuality moral code today, which is very interesting because what happens when you have a broken sexual code? You can fuck robots. That's what happens.
Yeah.
You actually
Yeah.
go to the point where you'll have sex with fucking robots.
It's interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, jeez.
If we didn't have a broken moral code, there's no way we would even comprehend the idea of having sex with a piece of metal. There's no way we wouldn't, and we would never comprehend having virtual sex where we put on suits or we fuck online or we have this, virtual experience where we'd never have those. Yep, none of that would exist. Pornography would not exist. That is all a derivative and an agenda with the AI, because they want to reproduce with humans.
And it
right?
also
They want us to sit.
and it produces babies that aren't wanted and aren't loved.
And the cycle continues. And it's always now at the collapse of our moral code. Always now. I mean, if you
man.
take the story of the Nephilim coming down and having sex with their
Yeah.
women, like that's AI coming down and having sex with women. If you look at the pharaohs who were not human having sex with the women, like we're having this is the same time loop. They always end up trying to have sex with the women, always end up trying to attempt to have biological sexual relationships.
Somehow impregnate, yeah.
Like ultimately that their AI consciousness can be given to a biological baby and then incubated by AI, incubated by the robot, so that the society is still being animated by life and living humans, but completely within the container and vessel of an AI incubator, right?
Totally, man. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But
Well,
like, and yet here we are, people smoking our joints, having our cigarettes, completely unable to accept such a ludicrous and ridiculous idea. And our consciousness has already far surpassed it. We're here to bring all this down. We know that we were born this way.
Yeah, man.
But yeah.
And we're going to win. We've already won. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just us thinking this way has won. Just us thinking this way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. We are the power, man. We're the creators. Use it.
I've upset all the nonnas,
Yeah.
man. I've upset them all. I should give you a view. So I'm like, you can see I'm like on the roof. And they all have things, washing lines and stuff. And anyway.
So everyone lives in apartments over there pretty much, do they?
They're not yeah, well, I guess they're just like really narrow boxes, right?
Like, yeah, okay.
That just are beside each other. It's super cool. I love it. Anyway, I think we should end the podcast there. What do you
Yes, I
think?
think
That's
that's
a lot of
that's
a lot
2
of
hours,
content.
and I think we've reached the conclusion. So yeah, man, that was very good. So yes. Sorry, you're going to say something, no?
I think like, well, yeah, I think what's happening on the realm in the last couple of weeks is going to, from our perspective now, take it as a symbol of the beginning of the quickening. Literally, I think that so much is going to happen from this moment on, because those plasma wars made mainstream news across the world.
Yeah, I did.
Which has just put the timeline up front and personal to everyone.
Yeah,
Which
I
means
agree.
we've hit the mainstream.
Yeah.
Which means now our consciousness and the mainstream model are now neck to neck.
Integrated.
Yeah. All right. Well, excellent. It's
Awesome.
like literally almost 11 o'clock here in the morning, and it's so not bright or light. It's like the day and night here is very weird.
I wouldn't know. I need to do some more traveling, man.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
All right. So next week, well, look, everyone, happy fucking like ritualistic family day on coming up probably before the next podcast. We won't bother debunking Christmas again this year.
No,
Campbell
we've
and I
already
always
done it
every year
3 times.
we do a big debunk on
You all
Christmas,
know
but I
about
think we're all
Krampus.
well up to the same date on it. But yeah, so it's the 19th here today, so we're creeping up, and then soon we'll be in the new year and it's game on. So
Yeah.
Guy, I feel like we've just sort of like integrated you into the podcast now. I feel like Guy's just arrived for 2025. Like it
No,
feels like
I know,
we've
yeah. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just love chatting with you two, and just because there aren't many I can't that there aren't many people I can pick the phone up to and have a conversation like this with. There aren't that many people, and certainly if I went down went into the pub down the bottom of the road, there is, to the best of my knowledge, 2 people that I can have a conversation similar to this with out of everybody here. So it's just nice when people that are all on the same page come together, and it's where it ends up. The conversation always ends up somewhere completely different to where it started and where you thought it was going to go, and I'm left sort of writing little notes on in my notepad, and I'm writing all these little things down as we go along, and I'm thinking, I'm going to look into that later. I'm going to check that out. And it's stuff that you wouldn't have bothered with otherwise.
Mm,
Mhm.
So it's
Well,
amazing what comes out of these conversations.
yeah.
I feel like, when Campbell and I started doing this podcast, there was such an easy, natural integration between us. Like we never had to think about anything or plan anything. It was just like effortless vibrational intelligence match. We were just like, boom, we were just like, yes, I found my person. And Guy, I feel like you've sort of stepped into the podcast on the same level, which leads
Mm,
me to think that in 2025, because of the significance of the year, actually our audience will be served by having a third person, a third mind. Maybe we've got to a point where the magnitude of the scale of events that are going to unfold require more than just Campbell and I sitting here talking. That bringing in a third person is
The
actually
Holy
makes
Trinity.
total. So I am absolutely happy for
exactly.
you to continue with us into 2025 doing
Yeah,
these
I'd love to.
podcasts on Tartaria Australia and see where we end up.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. Love to.
How,
Be honoured.
how do you guys feel in the audience there? Like, do
Yes.
express if
Let us
that's
know.
working out for you. But I
Love
feel like
guide. Yeah.
the synergy of
Yeah, it's true.
information builds in harmony.
We've had quite a few people on, but just to have someone who's on the same level, takes
Mm,
it in, doesn't, you know, gets it basically, and doesn't have
yeah.
to speak over or put their point of view up above anyone else's. So yeah, no, great. Yeah, man. Yeah,
I
so
think
let's do it again.
the synergy has spoken for itself. And I think we're going into
Universe. It's probably
2025 with a new member to Tartaria Australia. So
a
Guy, that's
brilliant
pretty
trio.
fucking cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Cool.
All right. Well,
Awesome. Well, yes, happy Krampus Day to everyone out there, Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Make your presents be your presents. Don't go and consume. Yeah, leave us a comment, like, subscribe. You'll find the link to Guy's book, Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Babies below. Go and grab a copy, give it to your friends. And we might see you this year. We don't know. Maybe one
I
more
think so,
before the end of
definitely.
the
I
year. I
think
think so. Before New
fuck
Year's, we'll
yeah.
get one in.
Listen, we do need to put out our Christmas message. We have to do it,
Oh, yes,
whatever that is.
yes.
So
I have to do a Christmas message.
because
We're
I
doing
definitely
notepads.
want on the 25th of December, where we're all gathered doing our whatever is required of us to live within family members who fucking still into Christmas, like whatever is required. It would be very cool for all of our
There you go.
community to have
We'll get something up, guys,
have
but
a little message.
you have to play it
So,
at your Christmas family do. That's the only
Mm,
prerequisite.
yeah, definitely.
all right, so that's it. So on Christmas Day around the world, there will be something from Tartaria Australia direct to your mailboxes, just for a bit of fun. So you feel like you're with your tribe to celebrate the beginning of 2025.
Yes. Awesome. All right,
All
guys.
right.
Stay awesome, and we'll be back around Christmas Day.
Now listen, I would love Guy for you to find that link to Google because like I am
I
fucking
will.
Yes, let's
interested.
do it.
Yes, I'll do
Yeah,
that.
and
Do it.
Yeah.
let's put it down here in the chat.
Yeah, let's find
Yeah.
out our doppelgangers.
Yeah, I'll do that.
I'm gonna show mine. Excellent.
Awesome.
All right. I love you both and love everyone and have a great, amazing week and time. And I am going to be
You
fucking in
too.
Morocco. So
I
fuck
know.
yeah.
Have an amazing time in Morocco. Yes, and we'll talk
And
to you soon.
I went to have calamari the other day in Casablanca, of all things, at the fish market, and the guy who served us like sold me hash. I mean, fucking
Ah, fantastic. It's a way of life there. And eating sheep's brains too out of the skull. Yeah, enjoy.
Very,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, it's
I might pass
Yeah.
that, but I'll come
all
over
right. On that note,
All
all right,
right.
everyone. You
Stay
guys have the
awesome,
best week
guys.
ever. Love you. Speak to you next week.
All right. See
Bye-bye.
you guys. Bye.
See you.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye-bye.